I am 𝓥𝓲𝓫𝓱𝓪 and welcome to classes Funda Clear. So today I'll explain the 6th chapter of the class 10th geography, and the chapter that we have got here is manufacturing industries. So manufacturing industries. Now in this chapter we are going to discuss about the manufacturing industries. Basically this chapter is connected with the previous two chapters that we discussed, like that was agriculture and minerals and energy resources. So those two chapters will have a connection in this chapter, and in this chapter we're going to have a look at what is the importance of manufacturing, what can be the disadvantages of manufacturing as well, and different types of industries, what can be the classification of industries on the basis of what. So that is all we are going to discuss in this chapter. Now first of all, what is manufacturing? Now manufacturing is a kind of production of goods in large quantities after processing the raw material into good valuable products or items. Now you know what, that paper that you use for writing is made from the pulp of a tree. So that we have transformed, we have produced after processing that pulp into a paper, and that paper has been made processed through manufacturing. That process is manufacturing. You know what, that sugar is made from sugar cane, paper is made from pulp, and different types of items are made from raw materials. So transformation of raw materials into good valuable products after processing them is known as manufacturing. And you know what, that in our today's life manufacturing is a secondary activities, and the workers, people who work in that are also secondary sector employers. You could say that secondary sector employees, like for example the workers working in iron and steel industry, sugarcane industry, textile industry, car, breweries, textiles, all those workers fall into this category, fall into the secondary sector category. So you could say that manufacturing, that is a secondary sector activity that happens in our daily life. So you could say that manufacturing is basically the production of goods in large quantities, as industries are established for manufacturing, and that is why the name of the chapter is also manufacturing industries, because industries are established for any manufacturing work. So you could say that is what is manufacturing industries. So let's discuss about the importance of manufacturing and other aspects with the first topic, that is importance of manufacturing. So importance of manufacturing. Now what can be the importance of manufacturing? Like why do we even need that manufacturing? You know what, that manufacturing industries or manufacturing is not just a backbone of our country's development, but also the in general economic development, particularly in our country. You could say that it helps in the backbone of the economic development of the country, and in general it is for the particularly the national economic development in our country as well. Now there can be some points which you can write or you can study about the importance of manufacturing. Now first of all, you know what, that agriculture, it helps in agriculture, that is the backbone of our economy, like economical development you could say. Now what happens that for agriculture the manufacturing help, and the manufacturing industries has helped a lot for modernizing the agriculture to increase the economic development of our country. Like it supports agriculture after modernizing them, like having tools, different types of machines, fertilizers and insecticides, pesticides. Those are things that are manufactured in an industry and that are used in agriculture as well. So that's the backbone of our economy has been formed. As well as you know what, that agriculture and industries go hand in hand, like they are not exclusive of each other. After that we have that if we have more and more manufacturing, then what would happen, that we have seen many examples that those countries which have a lot of manufacturing, those countries are very rich, are very prosperous, and India's prosperity also lies in manufacturing. And if we have more and more manufacturing, then it will increase the trade and commerce with other countries as well, and we can have the much needed foreign goods in our country as well, because if we have manufactured a lot of goods, then we will export them to other countries and we will have import as well. So you could say that these are some of the importances of manufacturing. Now what happens is there can be different types of manufacturing, like many things that you use are manufactured. Why is it so? Like that can be also counted as manufacturing importance. So you could say that those are the importances of manufacturing. After that you could say that agriculture and manufacturing are not exclusive of each other. they go hand in hand. Like what happens, like for example, agro-based industries. Now those industries are based on agriculture, like their raw material come from agriculture, but what happens that it also have the agriculture, like it makes the productivity of agriculture more and more by supplying them insecticides, pesticides, and many other fertilizer machine tools, irrigation systems, PVC pipes, different types of machines and tools, and both are hand in hand. So you could say that there is a lot of competitiveness and kind of productivity in manufacturing. So you could say that could be the importance of manufacturing as well. And whenever there is a manufacturing, there is a kind of role of urbanization as well. Can be seen urbanization as well. So you could say that these are the importance of manufacturing. Now the next topic that we have got here is contribution of industry to national economy. So contribution of industry to the national economy. Now if we talk about the national economy, that is generally the GDP. Like you could say that GDP, that is the per capita for income. So you could say that the gross product value, that is generally the gross domestic value, gross domestic production more and more specifically. Now if we talk about the national economy, what is the role of manufacturing in that? Now if we talk about the national economy, total kind of contribution of industries of manufacturing in the GDP is about 17% out of 27%, from which 10% is for quarrying, mining, and extraction of minerals, those kind of things. So you could say the total 27%, out of that 17% is a manufacturing and 10% is for the quarrying, mining, extraction, those kind of things for extracting the raw materials, minerals. So you could say that those activities contribute about 10% and 17% is of industries. But if we talk about the East Asian countries, their proportion, their percentage is about 25% to 35%. That should be in India as well, as India is also an Asian country. So you could say that there is no need of more and more development. And if we talk about the growth of GDP per annum, like it is noticed after a decade, over the last decade it was 7% per annum, and for the next decade we are expecting to be 12% per annum. Like you could say the design is 12% per annum, and the last decade was 7% per annum of the GDP growth that is contributed by the industries, by the manufacturing products, manufacturing activities. So you could say that happens. And if we talk about the manufacturing, we talked about the importance of manufacturing, and one of the most important point here is also that it helps in the eradication of poverty and unemployment as well, as many people are employed in the manufacturing industries, as there is a lot of need of workers as well, like labor, there is a need of man labor as well. So you could say that it also helps in eradicating the poverty and unemployment in our country, so that it will also increase the national economy of our country, the GDP rates of our country. So that should be done in our country as well. And we have expected, like you could say that many philosophers, many big people have expected, many national economists have expected that after the next decade there should be a very good proportion contribution of industry to the national economy, about 35%, about 25 to 35%. And for that purpose NMCC has been established, that is National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council, that to increase the national manufacturing competitiveness. And for this purpose a council has been made, that is NMCC. So you'll have to remember that, it's a very important thing to remember. So we have talked about the contribution of manufacturing industries in national economy, a very good contribution there should be. Like you could say that the backbone is agriculture, but after that we have manufacturing industries as well. Now the third topic that we have got here is to discuss is industrial location. Industrial location. Now if we talk about the industrial location, what can be the location for industry? Just think about that. What are the things that are needed for industry? First of all, there should be availability of raw material, then there should be labor, capital, power, energy, those kind of things. Like a good environment, good facilities, there should be. Like if industry has been established and there is no water, there is no power, then how would the industry run? So you could say that for manufacturing purpose, for industrial location, we need to have these facilities, these things, but consequently not all these factors can be available just at one place, isn't it like that you will not have all the things present at the same place? Well, there can be other thing that is consequently you can use a place that is where most of the factors, most of the needed things can be available or can be arranged at a very low cost. So the main factor for establishing industry for industrial location is a low cheap cost of production. You could say that there should be cheap cost of power, lowest, minimize as you can. So you could say that is a very important factor for an industrial location. And also industrialization and urbanization go hand in hand. Now what happens that whenever there is industry, people start to live, and after time passes it becomes a kind of urban city and urbanization grows. And because of the urbanization also helps the industrialization. Like in urbanization you have the banking, insurance, loan, loan insurance, many other facilities, transportation, like those things that can be available in the market of urban centers. And what happens that many industries form a kind of group to take the advantages of urban centers together, and that is known as agglomeration economies. Like today, nowadays, it can be seen very much. Agglomeration economies can be seen very much nowadays. So you could say that if we talk about the industrial location, it's not possible that all the things will be available just at one place. But the main factor that will remain here is the cheap cost. Minimize as much as you can. And after that, we have seen that urbanization and industrialization go hand in hand. So that is, we have talked about the you could say that is contribution of industry to the national economy and the industrial location. Now the fourth topic that we have got here is classification of industries. Now classification of industries. Now if we're gonna talk about the classification of industries, then there could not be just 2 or 3 classification of industries. There can be different types of classification on the matter of different bases. Like if we talk about on the basis of raw materials, then there can be agro-based industries that use raw materials from agriculture, and secondly mineral-based industries that use the raw materials from the minerals like iron and steel, aluminum. We'll discuss specifically later, but let's talk about just a recap, like some of those things. After that, on the basis of ownership, you can also classify the industries. First of all, private sector industries that is owned by an individual or a group of individuals. Like for example, Tisco, Tisco is also like Tata Steel and Iron, those kind of things. Like that is owned by an individual or a group of individuals. That is the private property of a person or a group of person. After that, we have public sector industries. Public sector industries, that is for, you consider that is owned and operated by the government, by the state government. You know what, that public sector industries and you could say that ventures have been established in our country for the purpose of eradicating the poverty and unemployment from our country. So for example, of public sector industries could be BHEL or SAIL, that is SAIL. So you could say that are a short form of the names of industries. After that, we have the cooperated industries as well. Now cooperated industries are those industries that are cooperated by the workers and employers, like the pool of profit and loss will be contributed, will be distributed proportionally between the both people, between both parties. After that, we have joint sector activities, joint sector industries. Now joint sector industries that are owned and operated by both an individual or a group of individuals and a state government, you could say. So you could say that these are 4 types of classification on the basis of ownership. After that, on the basis of area, there can be classification of industries as well, like small scale industries. Now small scale industries are those industries that are not that much large, like we have cottage industries, home industries, those kind of things. And large scale industries that have been on a large scale, like very big industries over all the country. So you could say that is a large scale countries, like large scale industries. After that, on the basis of products, we can also classify them. Like for example, there is that some industries are there which produce the products that do the production work as a raw material. Like for example, iron and steel industry, like they produce iron and steel that is used as a raw material for other factories, industries as well. So those are the industries first classification, and second classification could be that those industries that produce the goods and that can be sold into the market directly, that can be consumed directly, like for example sugar, textile. So you could say that that is the classification of all the industries. Now let's discuss about the most important ones specifically with the next topics and subtopics. So the next topic that we have got here is agro-based industries. So agro-based industries. Now agro-based industries are those industries that are based from raw materials from agriculture, like for example cotton textiles, woolen textiles, and we have jute, sugar, and edible oil. Now these are they are based on agriculture for raw materials, so they are known as agro-based industries. Now let's talk about the agro-based industries one by one. Now the first industry that we have got here is textile industry. So textile industry. Now textile industry is a kind of you could say the only industry in our country that is self-reliant and complete in value chain, that is from raw materials to good high value added products. So you could say that is the only kind of production manufacturing industry that is self-reliant and complete in the value chain. Now in textile we have cotton textile, jute, woolen textile that is a cloth fiber garments that are made, and in textile industry we have yarn that is produced. So you could say the textile industry that is everywhere in our country, and in different parts of country different textile industries are there. For textile industry we need to have labor, capital, everything that is used for industry, and that is also agro-based industry, because for cotton, for jute, for those things it is based on agriculture. So you could say that is the textile industry. Now in textile industry we have firstly the cotton textiles. So cotton textiles. Now cotton, as all of you know that we did talk about cotton in the history as well, like we have a long history of cotton mills as well. Now cotton that was firstly produced in our country by weavers, by workers you could say. After that, when Britishers came in colonial period, our Indian workers, Indian weavers had to face a long kind of competition to those people, to those England made mill cloth, like cotton that was made in the mills of England. As all of you know that cotton mill that came around after 18, you could say that cotton mills came later, but the handlooms were introduced before that. Now handlooms that were introduced in the 18th century, and that is why the weavers of our country had to face competition. And nowadays cotton mills, cotton industry, cotton textiles are concentrated in our country in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. As all of you know that in Maharashtra there is a kind of Gujarat is a very good belt of cotton growing area, like there is black soil, very good quality of cotton is grown, and there is a port for you could say that export as well, there is a port for exchange you could say. So you could say that there are many factors, many you could say facilities available at that place for cotton textiles, and that is why cotton textiles are concentrated in these regions. Now if we talk about the cotton textiles, then it gives employment to many of the workers, it benefits many of the workers, like the cotton ball pluckers that pluck the cotton ball, and the workers that are engaged in the activities like spinning, weaving, gaining, and many other, like dyeing, designing, cutting, fabric making, those kind of things. So those workers and cotton ball pluckers are benefited from the cotton textile. Now if we talk about the cotton textile and those workers, we have spinning and weaving. Now for spinning we have the best quality of cotton produced in our country, but for weaving, as weaving cannot use that much of high quality produced yarn that is produced in our country, that is why the quality of fabric is low, you could say it's not that much good, and that is why it cannot stand in the international market. So you could say that for weaving there is handlooms and many other methods, like by workers in cotton industry generally weaving is done. For weaving we don't have very big industries, like generally it is decentralized. For spinning methods, for spinning cotton, we have centralization in Maharashtra, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. But for weaving, we have a decentralization method. Like in every area, there is many other methods of weaving, like embroidery, zari, silk, those kind of things, and that is why it is decentralized in our country. And after that, there isn't that much big industry of weaving in our country. Like there are only small industries that are the cottage industries, and that is why there is a need of improvement in that. After that, we have cotton textile. Now, from a long history, cotton is the best quality product in our country, and cotton that is exported to other countries as well. But now what is happening that still, even if we have good quality of cotton, still some need of import is felt because of low power erratic, like there isn't that much power, and there are other factors as well, like the availability of labor, potential of those workers as well. So you could say that is a cotton textile in our country, mainly in Maharashtra, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. So you could say that is the cotton textiles. After that, we have jute textiles. Jute textiles, jute that is known as the golden fiber, as we discussed in the agriculture chapter. Now jute that is you could say that India is the largest producer of raw jute and the jute goods, and the second exporter of jute after Bangladesh. Now jute that used to face a lot of competition, even today it faces a lot of competition to the substitutes, to the synthetic fibers, as also the jute can be used for wearing. It is used for mat purposes, for making bags and other kind of things. Like you could say that for making lacs as well, so sacks as well. So you could say that it is facing a lot of competition to synthetic fibers in the international market as well. But the government policy in our country has supported jute, as in our country there is a very kind of ban of plastic use, plastic bags, and there is a kind of awareness among the people to use the jute bags. Like it has been made necessary for all the people to use the jute bags, and that is why jute is still. Now what is happening to the main market of jute are UK, Russia, those countries. And for cotton too, we have some exporters, like importers, like that import cotton from our country, that are the exporter from country, that are UK, USA, Russia, Japan, and those countries like East European countries. We have Nepal as well and Singapore as well for the cotton export from our country. But now there is a kind of need of import for cotton textile as well, as just I discussed. After that, we have jute industry. The main markets of jute industry are UK, and we have kind of Russia as well, those kind of European countries, because now they are seeing the environmental problems and need to conserve the environment, and jute is a very good thing. Now those kind of biodegradable things are used for conserving the environment, and nowadays there is kind of opportunity that can be seen for the jute textiles. So you could say that jute that is the golden fiber, and that is generally produced, the jute textiles are generally in West Bengal, like in the Hooghly Basin. Why is it so? Now in Hooghly Basin there is a good availability of water, good availability of jute, inexpensive water transport, good transport as well. There are many factors, that is why jute textiles are concentrated in West Bengal. After that, we have next agro-based industry, that is sugar industry. Now sugar is often known that is made from sugarcane. Sugarcane that acts as a raw material for sugar industry. Now India is the largest, you could say that India is the second largest producer of sugar in the world, but the largest producer of gur and khansari. Gur that is generally jaggery, and khansari that is also used as a substitute for sweet, for sugar. So you could say that India is the largest producer of these two things. Now sugar industry that is concentrated mainly in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Now out of the total production of sugar, 60% is contributed from these two regions industries, like in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. There are other states as well, like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. These are other states where sugar industries are located. But now what can be seen that there is a more and more focus, like there is more and more kind of many people are saying that there should be more industries, establishment of sugar industry in western areas and southern areas, mainly in Maharashtra that region. But what would happen if we establish in Maharashtra that in Maharashtra there is a good quality of cane, like it has so much sucrose, that is why the content is good. But what is the problem there? That there will be less transportation, like for transporting that cane to the factories or to the industries, there will be a lot of problem, and thus not sugarcane is needed for sugar industry. There are other factors as well that cannot be seen in Maharashtra. So you could say that is why the most industries of sugar are located in Uttar Pradesh and in Bihar, because of many reasons, like as we saw in the geo that it is located in Hooghly Basin because of the low labor cost, because of the water availability, many things there are. Well, the same happens, the same applies to the sugar industry as well. That is, we talked about the agro-based industries. That was the first classification on the basis of raw material. Now the second classification was the basis of mineral-based industries. So let's discuss about them with the next topic. Mineral-based industries. So mineral-based industries, now those industries that are based on mineral and metals as their raw materials, like iron and steel and aluminium. We will only discuss about these two as they are the main kind of, you could say, mineral-based industry in our country. So let's discuss about them one by one. Now the first one here is iron and steel. So iron and steel industries. Now this industry act as a raw material, raw industry for other industries as well. Like iron and steel that is produced in this industry is used in other industries for many work, like for machines, for tools. So you could say that it is a heavy industry, heavy bulk industry, because the content, the production of this industry is bulky, heavy, and that is why it is categorized as a heavy bulky industry. Well, there can be three classifications on the basis of content as well. That is heavy, medium and light. So this is heavy, you could say, as there is a lot of bulky contents as production. Now for the raw material for this industry is the iron ore, and there is coking coal and limestone as well. They are required in the ratio 4:2:1. Now that is for iron ore ratio, coking coal ratio, limestone, that is 4:2:1. So you could say that these three are required for making steel out of this industry. Well, in some cases manganese is also used to harden the steel. Steel, as all of you know, that in our area we do use steel for many purposes, like it is a very strong metal and it is used for many purposes, like for making utensils, machines, tools. For many industries it acts as a raw material. So you could say that it acts as for the engineering tools, for machinery companies, machinery industries mainly. So you could say that this kind of industry is very important, very essential for our country's development as well, because without iron and steel industry we can't just have everything, can we? So you could say that is it. Now if we talk about the consumption of iron and steel in our country, that is around 70.9 kg per annum. That should be at least 224.5 kg per annum as per the average in the international level. That is very low. Like in our country it is very low. And after that, if we talk about some examples, now China and India in 1950 both had the same type of production, both had the same quantity, amount of production of iron and steel, but now China is the largest producer of steel. Why is it so? Well, there are many factors in our country, like for example, like less potential of laborers, less availability of labor. After that, we don't have a very good quality of infrastructure, and there is a need of power as well. Well, there is power supply, but that is irregular power supply. So these are some of the reasons why iron and steel industry in our country has not grown that much that it should have. So you could say that is about the iron and steel industry. Well, as all of you know, that iron and steel that is made in a blast furnace, like in a big furnace, all the materials are there, raw materials, and suddenly molten kind of steel is produced, and then it is shaped. Many things are done, like for shaping, for engraving, for carving. So you could say that is the use of iron and steel industry. Now you could say that for iron and steel industry there is a need, like that is very important for iron industries, that is the backbone of other industries as well as for domestic needs as well. While the production of our country of steel is good for domestic needs, for not on the international level, like in international market it cannot stand with other countries. Next we have the other mineral, that is aluminium smelting. Now aluminium smelting. Now for aluminium smelting industries, we need to have a kind of the raw material that is bauxite. Well, we did talk about in the previous chapter as well that bauxite acts as a raw material for aluminium smelting industries. Aluminium acts as a substitute for copper, zinc, lead, and sometimes in case of steels as well. Mainly it is used for making aircraft, wires, and for making utensils. Now you know what, that aluminium with so much resistance, corrosion, with so much malleability, and is the second most important metallurgical industry in our country. So you could say that aluminium smelting is a very good thing in our country as well, very important industry in our country. And if we talk about the aluminium smelting, in 2018 India acted as the first for it. So you could say that that is a very good thing to do. Now if we talk about the aluminium smelting areas, that is basically in Odisha, in Jharkhand, in Chhattisgarh. And if we talk about the iron and steel, that is concentrated in the Chota-Nagpur plateau. So that is about the iron and steel industry and the aluminium smelting. Now the next industry that we're going to talk about is chemical industries. So chemical industries. Chemical is all of you know that what they are. Well, there can be two kind of production in chemical industries, that are organic chemicals and inorganic chemicals. You know what, that in our country there is a very lot of demand of chemical industries as well. Well, a lot of popularity of chemical industries as well. If we talk about inorganic chemicals, that are the nitric acid that is used for making the synthetic fibers, adhesive paints, and dye stuffs. After that we have other things, other kind of, you could say that inorganic chemicals as well. Like for example, we have the soda ash. After that we have caustic soda, and there are many other chemicals that are inorganic. So you could say that those are the inorganic chemicals. After that we have some organic chemicals as well. You know what, that organic chemicals that are mainly concentrated on the petrochemical industries. Like petrochemical, they are the petrochemicals, and generally they are near the oil refineries or where petroleum and natural gas are found. So you could say that those are very important, essential for this kind of industry as well. And you know what, that in chemical industry, well, if there is a production that is mainly used chemical industry itself, like for example, if there is a chemical that is used for making other material for other chemical, then what would happen, that same chemical would be used as a raw material in the same industry. So you could say that is what it is. After that chemical industries, we have other industries as well. Let's talk about them with the next topic, that is fertilizer industries. So fertilizer industries. Now fertilizer industries that produce they have the production of nitrogenous fertilizers. After that we have complex fertilizers with the composition of potash, nitrogen, and with the phosphate as well. After that we have ammonium chloride as well. So you could say that these are some of the type of fertilizers that can be produced in a fertilizer industry. Now we talked about the complex fertilizers, for which NPK are required, like that is a scientific name. N is for nitrogen, P is for phosphate, K is for potash. Now potash that cannot be found in our country, that is we are totally reliable on the imports from other countries. Like there isn't any kind of reserve of potash or potassium in any form in our country. That is why for commercially viable potash is imported from other countries. So that is about the fertilizer industry that is used in agriculture as well. So you could say that is about the fertilizer industries. After that we have the next type of industry, that is cement industries. Cement industries. Now your house, dams, roads, buildings, all these are made for cement, aren't they? And cement is very important for constructing activities. Dams, bridges, roads, highways, those kind of things. And other things, airports are also made from the cement. And without cement we can't just live, can we? Cement, for the raw material for the cement industry are limestone, silica, and gypsum, that are very bulky and heavy content. And for cement industry, what happens that it has gained a lot of popularity. Like there is a lot of demand of cement all over the world, like in the industry, in the international market as well. So you could say that cement, that is very important, and there are a lot of opportunities for cement industry as well. That is why government has been taking policies to make it more and more usable to other people, to maintain its vitality to all the people, to sustain it. So you could say that is about the cement industry that is exported in South South Asia, East Asia, Middle East Asia, and in Africa. So you could say that is those countries that are the main market for cement industry for our country. After that, we have the next type of industry, that is automobile industry. So automobile industries, now automobile industries like all the vehicles like trucks, cars, motorcycles, three-wheelers, two-wheelers, and multi-utility vehicles are produced, are made, are manufactured in an automobile industry. Now automobile industry with the effect of liberalization, as all of you know that in iron and steel production as well, liberalization and foreign exchange investment played a very important role, and that liberalization also played a very great impact, played a very great important role in the popularity of automobile industry in our country as well. Nowadays people used to like to have cars and like all those vehicles and support those automobile industries. Well, they are mainly concentrated in cities like Delhi, Pune, Mumbai, and we have Gurugram and Bangalore, Chennai, those cities. So you could say that those advanced cities are the ones that have the production of cars and automobile industries. After that, we have the next type of industry, that is information technology and electronics industry. IT, that stands for information technology and electronics industry. Electronic industries include all from telecommunication things, from telephone to transmitter sets. We have the radars, computers, those electronic appliances are in the electronic industries, and those are also mainly in the cities, advanced cities like Bangalore, that is the capital of electronic industries of our country. Bangalore, Chennai, Noida, Delhi, we have many cities, and information technology can be successful with the electronic industries, and those are mainly the hub of information technology is mainly in Noida and Delhi. After that, we have Bangalore, China, Mumbai, these cities. So you could say that is about information technology and electronics technology. After that, we have the next topic, that is industrial pollution and environmental degradation. Now, industrial pollution and environmental degradation. Now, what happens that we have looked at all the profits, benefits, advantages of industries in national economy and development of our country, but we can't overlook the pollution or the degradation of environment caused by it. Noise pollution, water pollution, land pollution, air pollution, and the environmental degradation we have. So let's discuss about them one by one, and then we'll look at some suggestions as well. So firstly, we have air pollution. So air pollution. Now, how is air pollution caused? Now, air pollution that is generally caused by, that in chemical industries, smoke is emitted in the air, and many, you could say, dangerous hazardous gases are released in the air, like the carbon monoxide, nitric oxide. You could say that those kind of acids and chemicals that are released in the air that can cause the human health, the plant, the atmosphere, and the environment as well. And if we talk about the air, now what happens that if any hazardous or any kind of chemical, hazardous gas or chemical leaks in the air, then there could be very big tragedy, or very long term, very big tragedy, as we have already discussed about the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now you must remember that was a very big tragedy, and we must remember that. We must learn from the history. So you could say that air pollution, that is that those smoke that is emitted in the air, many hazardous gases that are released in the air can be the cause of air pollution. We are polluting the air, the atmosphere, our own health, the plants, and other creatures as well. After that, we have water pollution. Now, water pollution when all the wastes from many industries, factories, and effluents are released in the water without any treatment, that would cause a water pollution. Like the paper industry, pulp industry, nuclear power plants also do this kind of things. Now, they would release all the waste from their industries into the water, and that would cause a water pollution. As all of you know that in water there are aquatic animals, plants as well. What would be the effect on them? Just think about that. After that, we have thermal pollution. Now, thermal pollution of water causes when hot water is released from any industry into the water, and it would affect the aquatic life. Like, you know what, that in nuclear power plants, in, you could say that in petrochemical refineries, what happens that you could say that hot water thermal power plants are released in the water, causing thermal pollution of water. So you could say that is thermal pollution of water. After that, we have noise pollution. Now, noise pollution, I've always feel that noise pollution that causes irritation, others many psychological effects, and hearing impairment, and makes you angry as well. So you could say that is very bad for our human health, and that is why there must be some steps taken for noise pollution as well. Now, noise pollution that causes when there is machinery work, construction work, those kind of things. So you could say that when generators are there is also a noise pollution. That is, we talked about the pollution, different types of pollution. Now, let's talk about some suggestions for them as well. With the next and last topic of this chapter, that is control of environmental degradation. Now, the next and last topic of this chapter is control of environmental degradation. Now, control of environmental degradation, as we talked about the environmental degradation, the pollution caused by the industries. Well, there can be some suggestions for conserving the environment, for less pollution in the atmosphere, in the environment. Now, firstly, minimize the use of water by recycling it, reusing it. After that, there should be treatment of effluents and wastes from any industries. Well, if we talk about the groundwater reserves, when we pollute the soil, what happens that when rain comes, it pollutes the groundwater as well, and many industries extract the groundwater even more than its limit. So that would lead to the extinct of that groundwater. So there should be rainwater harvesting. After that, for noise pollution, there should be some kind of treatments, you could say that to the machines. There can be solution by fitting some tools into them, so that there will be more and more energy but less noise pollution. So there can be many steps taken by be aware yourself. You could say that there can be many suggestions that can you write yourself as well. So that is all we have discussed in this chapter. I've talked about all the topics and subtopics, and the next and last topic of this chapter, and the next and last chapter of this subject will be covered in the further upcoming videos. So thank you very much.